Hey everybody, this is Tao at the Forge, and tomorrow at FNM is going to be Artisan night. So what that means is that your deck has to be basically all made of commons and uncommons. So it should actually be fairly cheap to make a lot of decks. I don't know about you guys, but I've got a whole ton of them. So let's see, I've got 225 commons, 252 uncommons, so I can make a lot of these decks. Now, that being said, you still don't want to waste your wild cards, so I'm here to show you guys two of the decks that I plan on playing tomorrow, and hopefully we can have some wins. This one's a little bit of an older one, but I think it's still pretty good. It's basically Gruel Rush, so basically you're just trying to get out some 1/1s and just pump them up and just throw them at your opponent as fast as you can. So what we have is we're going to start off with Sedge Scorpion, so a 1/1 with Death Touch. Basically make it so a lot of people don't really want to, they're not going to want to block you. And then when they don't block you, then you can pump them up. Okay, Ginger Brute is another good one because he's unblockable. Right? Well, for 1 mana, you can make him unblockable except by creatures with haste. Right? Rimrock Knight allows you to pump your opponents, but also is a 3/1, so that's really good later, if you run out of creatures. Seasons of Growth will allow you to keep on drawing cards so you won't run out of gas. Collision Colossus. Basically, this could, you're probably never going to really cast the collision side. If you're at, I don't know, I guess if you're at that point, then I guess it's okay, but most likely you're going to cast the Colossus side to give your creature +4/+2 and trample. Domri's Ambush, and you can put a +1/+1 counter on creature control, and then it can deal its damage. It doesn't fight the other creature; it just deals its damage to its power. So unfortunately, it doesn't fight, so a Sedge Scorpion can't take out like a 6/6 or something like that, but it does deal its damage to a target creature or planeswalker. Zerta Goblin is a 2/2 with Riot, so you can get it out. You can strike right away, get in for some early damage. Grumgrully the Generous. Other non-creatures enter the battlefield with an additional counter, so it just pumps everyone else up. Nalback Rhino just gives you a nice 4/4, allows you, has trample, and gives you a card. Right, so whenever you cast a spell that targets it. So if you have this with Seasons of Growth, you can actually draw 2 cards off of it, and it's fairly cheap, and it has trample, so it can kind of get through. So this one is actually, like I said, it's pretty effective. The only, I didn't go over some of the other ones. We have Samut's Spirit, so a creature gets +2/+1 and Scry, so that can help you fix your mana, and it's only 1. It also gives you haste. I had thought about putting in Infuriate, because it seems like a strictly better. This is a +3/+2. This is +2/+1, so it's a little bit smaller, but you gain haste with this one and Scry. Right, and so scrying can allow you to scry into a card that's really useful, but also the haste is really nice too, because this deck wants to come out fast, and if it doesn't come out fast, then you're probably going to lose. Right, so you got Giant Growth coming in, and then basically the rest are just ways to pump up your creatures and get them through. The only other card that I had considered putting in here is, just look it up, Fling. Right, so later in the game, especially if you can get in some early damage, right, you can pump up your creature, right? Let's say you're at the 4 mana spot, you got Sedge Scorpion. You could actually, let's say you swing in with Sedge Scorpion and you have 4 mana. You could go Samut's Spirit +2/+2, a Giant Growth +3, right, and then that would give you, what's that, 6? So 1, 2. +5, yeah, so 6 damage total, right? Plus any other damage that you may have previously done, and then just fling it while it still has that, and then it does damage equal to its power to the target. So that could really, really, just crush your opponent, right? So that could be a finisher. Unfortunately, I couldn't really find anything to take out to put Fling in. Maybe Grumgully the Generous might be a good one, just because he is a creature, or she is a creature, but I don't know, it is a creature, but it's not really doing everything you want it to do. So it's a 3/3, it's got a fairly big body, it pumps up your other creatures, but Fling could be the finisher that you need, right? So anyways, that's just one option, to put in Fling in for Grumgully. Okay, so let's go. The other deck that I had thought of when I was looking around is this Jeskai Cycling. This is actually a variation of a tier, like a pretty really good modern, or not a pretty good standard deck that's out right now, just pared down to be Artisan, and mostly it's Artisan anyways. So let's take a look. What this has to do with is actually looking at and getting value from cycling. Okay, so we got Flourishing Foxes. There's a 1/1 for 1, but every time you cycle, you cycle a card, you get a +1/+1 counter. Now, I was going to make, and I still might make a video about this, is that cycling is really irritating because you can't interact with it. It's kind of similar to Amonkhet's Energy, where when someone cycles, you can't counter it, you can't really do anything with it, right? So, and they can do it at instant speed, right? So it's really hard to deal with cycling, in the same way that it was hard to deal with energy. So, anyways, we got a 1/1 for 1, which is good, but it basically every time you cycle a card, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Okay, Footfall Crater. So you can cast this on a land. You can tap the land to give your creature trample and haste. You are probably not going to do that, though. You're probably just going to use this card to cycle. So a lot of these cycling cards, the card deck is made out of cards that you want to play, and then other cards that are okay to play but just nice to cycle for, so you can cycle them for cheap. In general, this is one of those cards where you're just going to cycle it for cheap. Okay, Dryneth Healer, he gives you a 2/2 body on the field, and you gain 1 life every time you cycle a card. But he's also cycling 1, and I found in my play testing, I never really put him onto the battlefield, I just cycled him away most of the time. Valiant Rescuer, however, is actually really good. So for the first time you cycle a card each turn, you get a 1/1 human soldier creature token. And with this, you can actually just start pumping out all these 1/1 tokens and just overwhelm your opponent with little guys. So this one is actually a really good card. You generally do not want to cycle this one. Okay, so Starling Development, cycling 1. A target creature becomes a blue serpent with base power and toughness 4/4. This is an actual decent combat trick. So you can swing in with a 1/1 or whatever. Your opponent blocks it with a 2/2 or 3/3 or whatever, and then you can cast this as an instant and just destroy one of your opponent's creatures. However, it also is for cycling 1, so that's pretty good as well. All right, so Dryneth Stinger, this is a really nice one to get. So it's just a pinger. So every time you cycle another card, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Then you got Go for Blood. Go for Blood says target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. In general, I did not really like this card this much. There is another card where it says one target creature just fights another target creature, but it's 4 mana. So, unfortunately, it doesn't actually cycle. It doesn't cycle the other card. So this one I think is in there just to be able to cycle out, and sometimes it's okay, especially if you can get your Flourishing Fox to get pretty big. Improbable Alliance is very, very strong. So, but keep in mind this only it's only when you draw your second card each turn, right? So what this means is if you want to get a 1/1 fairy, you can only cycle once on your turn or twice on your opponent's turn. Right, so if you cycle twice on your opponent's turn, you'll get the fairy. If you do it once on if you do it on your opponent's turn, or you do it on your turn, you'll get it. You only have to do it once. I actually had 3 of these out in one match, and it was just so overwhelming because every time I would just cycle, attack, and creating 3/3 3 of the 1/1 fairies every single time was just too overwhelming for my opponent. Zenith Flare is a huge finisher because you can cycle so many cards out and cycling does so much work for you. Then you do X damage to a target, you gain X life. That's any target, right? So I accidentally used this to remove a creature once, and I realized that you can actually just use it on my opponent. I could have won a turn ahead. I just happened to have another one, and then the next turn I burned my opponent out with it. But this is actually a really strong card. It's not unusual to hit for 10 or 12 or something with this. And because all your creatures even have cycling, so you put out a Flourishing Fox, your opponent kills it, right? That means you still get it still counts and helps Zenith Flare. Okay, Frostveil Ambush can tap up to 2 target creatures. Again, this could be a good finisher, right? So just to be able to get your opponent's creatures tapped, right? And then, or give you a little bit of breathing room. But it could also be your opponent's got a couple creatures up for blocking. You can tap them both, and then you can just go move in for the kill. Okay, Boon of the Wish Giver, just draw straight up 4 cards for 6 mana. In general, you're just going to cycle this around, but if you happen to have 6 mana, then okay. The only problem is it's sorcery speed, so you would have to actually cast this like at sorcery speed, and then you probably used up all your mana and you can't do any more cycling. So more likely you're probably going to cycle this away. The rest is just straight up lands, 3 plains, 4 island, 1 mountain, 4 Azorius Guild Gates, 4 Swiftwater Cliffs, and 4 Windscarred Crags. And basically, the only reason why I have so many mountains or islands in comparison to everything else is just because of this double blue cost here, right? Just in case. But overall, it's pretty low to the ground. Most of the stuff you're casting is just 1 and 2, and then the rest is just straight up just cycling. So I think overall here we have, what is this, 24 lands? Yeah, 24 lands. It might be a little high. You could probably maybe take out 1 or 2, but overall in my playtesting this was pretty good. So I like it. I thought it was a good deck, and if you get this, it's actually the foundation for the Jeskai cycling standard deck that has like Lurrus and stuff in it. So anyways, those are my 2 decks that I plan on playing. I might take a look at a few more if I have time later on tonight, so watch for that video. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate all the support you can give. Thanks for watching, and good luck tomorrow at FNM.